Ash Trojans, 18 wins last season and a regional round playoff appearance against Jesuit. We have head coach Greg Briggs with us to preview the 2026 season. And Coach, before we went on air, we discussed you do have a lot of all district talent returning to your lineup, both pitching and hitting. If you can bring us up to speed just on your roster this year and how the end of last season carried into what y'all hope to see this spring.
Okay, again, thanks for having me. But I'll be honest with you. Last year was, as a head coach, it was a struggle to be just to be quite honest with you. We had a bunch of good guys, but it just seems like we had trouble, executing in key situations. And we've talked about that all off season, and we're talking about it obviously, going into this season. But we do have a lot of returning starters and some returning all district players and, some key guys. And we have 11 seniors, which is a lot. And, in baseball, you can only play 9. So, that means there's going to be some seniors that aren't starting. And, sometimes that can lead to a little bit of, some issues maybe here or there. But I don't think that's going to be the case. I know it's not going to be the case with this group. They've been together for a long time, and, they've played together. They played the travel ball scene when they were all younger and kind of grew up together. And, now it's their chance to, as seniors, to try to take us to, that quote unquote next level here at Ash. We've made some quarterfinal appearances and, been a few outs here or there away from getting the sulfur, and we just haven't been able to kind of get over that hump. So, hopefully this group will help us. We're not looking far ahead, but hopefully this group and with the experience we have returning, will help us get there.
Peeking at some of that depth, yeah. If you have 11 seniors, even at the 5A level, that typically means that you got a deep team. Where does that depth kind of show up? Is it on your pitching staff, your offense, your defense, or where does really the experience that your guys have show up early on?
Well, I'll be honest with you. They're spread out, which is a good thing. They're not all stacked in one spot, but we got some some guys that have some experience coming back on the mound. We got some guys that are coming back at position players that have a lot of experience, and some of their numbers aren't they're not going to jump off the page, but I think the experience is going to show up for us in a lot of different areas. And this group, I think they like each other and they pull for each other, and they've played together, and they hang out with each other off the field, and all of that stuff matters. That matters. You can have a talented team, but if the chemistry's not there and those guys don't pull for each other, I think you're kind of fighting against yourself. And I talk a lot about intangibles, and we talk about the 10 things that doesn't take any talent to win, and I think that's what we're focusing on kind of right now as a group.
Let's take a look at some of those guys who've been key to that chemistry that y'all built. Which players, just right off the bat, will you be leaning on to help lead this team?
Well, there's a lot of them. Caden Eckstein's, he's a 3-year starter. He's going to be returning, over there at third base, and he's been just as steady as can be over there. And, he's going to, I always say that guy could hit 300 in his sleep. He's a real selective hitter and has a good idea at the plate, what he's trying to do. Jackson Ross is our shortstop. He's got a lot of experience coming back. He's committed to LSUA. And he's really come on in the off season. He's had a tremendous. You can look at his numbers. Tremendous off season in the weight room. He's gotten stronger. He's put on a little bit of weight. That helps him. Clayton Doyle is one of our baseball guys, and he kind of takes that mentality to the field. And he started game 1 for us last year in Jesuit. And of course Jack Lee's. We're going to lean on him a ton. Jacob Dean's returning starter and in the outfield, and Jacob's one of those guys that started off as an infielder, and man, he can fly, he can run, and he's one of our better outfielders. So we kind of moved him out there last year. He had a really good year. He's one of the better defensive outfielders that I've had over the years. And then we got some other guys that some other seniors that we're counting on to come in and either give us some innings on the mound or, add some depth here or there, or, when this guy's on the mound and we need to make a move, then they can play there. Melvin Burns has been one of those guys for us. Man, he had some really tough luck as a freshman with 2 surgeries on his knees. and, really struggled getting healthy. And as a sophomore, wasn't 100%. And then last year he worked his butt off and he got in, a few innings here and there. But he's going to have to he's going to play a lot for us, and we're counting on him. He's going to have to do well for us. Grayson Thibodeau's, he's a 2-year starter over there at first base, and he's another one of those big football, baseball guys that, he can change the game with one swing of the bat. He's one of the guys we have in the lineup can get extra base hits. And then Ian Hunter's a guy that's worked his butt off for 3 years. He's going to get a chance to play. Colin Lacaz is another senior that's worked his butt off and had some arm issues on the mound, but he's going to get a chance to play. KJ Wright, man, if you know that guy's story, he's dealt with probably as much or more than any high school kid should ever have to deal with or go through. And, he's maintained consistency, and he's going to help us on the mound and in the outfield. And Tyler Robinson is another senior. So we're stacked at, we have a lot of returning experience and a lot of older guys. But, we lost some experience. Cooper Robinson's going to help us behind the plate. He's another football, baseball guy. And, Cooper didn't get a whole lot of experience last year, but really had a good off season, played football, got bigger and stronger. So, we're going to be counting on him behind the plate. And I think Cooper's going to get better and better every game.
Let's take a look at that schedule. For the most part, it will look similar to the one that y'all set up last year. You've got, again, you mentioned some of your football players. They're well aware of what District 2-5A is like on the football field. There's not much difference when it comes to baseball as far as challenges week in and week out once you get to district.
Right. In 5A, there's nowhere to hide. You can't, you're not going to hide in 5A. And our district is, as tough as any other district in the state. Of course, you have West Monroe, who's, they've won a state championship over there, and Ruston's going to be really, really good, this year. And, Pineville, year in and year out, those guys are solid. Washita, those guys, they've struggled a little bit here and there, but. And then, we added Neville last year with Coach Guerrero over there, and he's been in it a long time like I have. And, his teams are going to, they're going to play year in and year out. They're going to be well coached and fundamentally sound, and you're going to have to go out there and beat them. So, I mean, our district is really tough, and our non-district schedule is tough. We play in our tournament. We have Central of Baton Rouge coming in. We'll play those guys. Coach Guillot, Kenny at Jesuit, he and I go back a long way and know each other. So when we played those guys in the series last year, kind of got to talking, and they're coming to our tournament. So we'll play them. Coach Bass at Catholic, I had some history with him when I was down at Live Oak, and they're coming to play us, Catholic of Baton Rouge. And then Acadiana, we played them a 3-game series. Like we play those guys again. So, I mean, I'm one of those that, I believe in playing good teams, because if you want to get what you ultimately want, to achieve, you're going to have to beat good teams, and it's kind of a measuring stick of where you are during the season. And I think it really shows your guys, the level of play, of the teams that we have to beat. So the schedule is set up to be really tough. District is tough, and then our non-district schedule is tough, also. But we're looking forward to it. And it's going to be some good baseball play, right here in Central Louisiana.
So, yeah, you've got a great district schedule, obviously, once you get into the latter part of the season. But we'll finish up with this one. What do you think will look like success most to you in the early part of the season? What are you wanting to see do well? Obviously, the scoreboard will be up and down, and some baseball things tend to happen. But what do you want to see coming out of your dugout early on?
Well, to be honest with you, it's not, we don't, obviously people, they're going to look at wins and losses, as a measuring stick for success, as we all do, and as we should. But early on, I'm looking for, for us to play the game the right way and play the game together, respect the game, be fundamentally sound and pull for each other. I think we have enough talent to make some noise in 5A. But, I always talk about the intangibles, and it's, if you're the one and you're not starting that game, and you come in the 5th or 6th, or, are you ready? Are you going to be mentally ready and tough enough to come in and play as a senior or as a junior, where, everybody thinks, they should be starting? And, do you pull for your teammates? Are you a good teammate? Are you here every day? Are you coachable? Do you give great effort? Do you play the game the right way and respect the game? And I'm kind of looking to see how we play together, to be honest with you. And then there's some some guys that don't have a lot of experience, and some of them are a little bit older. And how do they play? The game at the varsity level is a little bit faster. It's it speeds up after when you get out of the JV stuff. And how do they handle that? And then probably the biggest thing is baseball is a failure sport. I mean, it's tough to play. And that's why I don't play golf anymore. I mean, but baseball is really tough to play, and if you can't not accept it, but if you can't handle or be able to deal with adversity or when things don't go your way, and to be able to flush that and forget about it and move on, I mean, the game it'll literally eat you up, and those guys are the ones that kind of get left behind. So I'm kind of looking at, how we play together, how are we going to, it's a long season, it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. How do we play together? But probably as or more important than that, how do we deal with adversity when that happens as a group and also as individuals?
Well, it sounds like, the beginning and end of this conversation for you keyed on chemistry. And I think if you got a team that has that, then, a 2-5A
Right.
schedule and everything that y'all got in front of you should be a fun challenge for sure. Ash Trojans will start the regular season here in about 17 days. Coach Greg Briggs, thank you so much for your time, and we'll be with you this spring supporting the Trojans.
Okay, man, I sure appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.